add to that, my husband and I went to the fair yesterday, all right? We went to the fair and they have fair games where you can like throw the ball or do whatever. And what's amazing about these games now,
It used to be $1 to $5.
it used to be $1 to $5, right? And you get the balls and you try to play for the stuffed animals. And it was always rather impossible to get the stuffed animal, okay? But when you're paying $1 to $5 for the game, it's okay. You might actually get lucky and win it. When we went yesterday, how much was it? It was $10 a game.
For 3 little balls.
For 3 little balls. My husband played. He got me a tiny little ice cream cone. He wanted to get me the big black unicorn, but come to find out, he would have had to hit 12 different little balloons, which would have cost a total of $40.
And hit every
single balloon in order to get that stuffed animal. Now that stuffed animal, again, I was in supply chain. I was connected to that company. They ship them in non-stuffed. They are so cheap to get those skins. They send it somewhere and just stuff it full because they don't want to pay for shipping, obviously, for a big item. So they stuff it somewhere. It probably costs like 50 cents, maybe 10 to 50 cents to make that. And then if you ship it in and then you stuff it, maybe you're talking 50 cents to $1 finished product, maybe. Because no one's watching those factories, okay? Who knows where they are? But the people aren't being treated very well. There's no coverage in that industry. So here you are at a fair. Now I've got to pay $40 for this unicorn that probably cost $1 to make. It was the biggest ripoff. And you won't win. Well, you could actually win that one. The amazing thing about the other games was there's no way you can win. We put 20 ping pong balls that had to drop into these little floating glass saucers, right? But the ping pong balls just bounce right out. So even though we got it in the thing, it doesn't stay because it's not a weighted ball. They're all tricked. Talk about chicanery, right? To market you. But it's such a ripoff now. It's not even worth playing to pay $10 to play when you know you're being ripped off and you'd have to play 3 to 5 times to even have a shot, really. And in that one, I don't think you even had a shot. Even if you played 20 times, I don't think you get a ping pong ball.
Like, it'd be a dog toy.
Or the rings on the little duck, right? That you have to get it around the duck head, but the ducks bob and the rings are too heavy. And it's like, the odds are absurd. Why can't you make that super cheap then so people keep playing? Because then you're ripping them off anyway, but at least they got to play it for a while. Or you make it achievable so that you could actually maybe win if you play 3 to 5 times. Now, the one with the balloons, you could probably actually win because you're extremely strong. But anyway, we would have had to pay $40. So talk about chicanery, talk about unfair games at the fair. Like, what if we actually started a fair that was fair? But it's back to Alan Watts' point that we would have to care. And it says, the explanation is simple. Most of our products are being made by people who do not enjoy making them, either as owners or workers. That was so obvious, a racket. And then the poor people even working the booth, you could tell they were like bottom of the barrel folks because they know they're ripping you off. And it's not going to be a good person that even wants to sell you on a game where you're set up to fail. So no one in that industry cares about the product, cares about the customer. It's just become a ripoff. How sad is that?
Rodeo was happy. People working at the rodeo were happy to be working.
Oh, the rodeo people were happy. Even the rides were a ripoff too. But yeah, but all of that was lovely. Like, yeah, but they love their animals.
You can tell the people that love their job for what they were doing.
They take pride. They take pride in what they're doing. Yes, and mastering. Yes. So we really need our hearts back in product. But since everyone's trying to build an economy of scale, to his point, because we're all trying to make millions, he had a great word for it. Where was the manufacturing? Money mad manufacturers. That's exact. Money mad manufacturers. Cheaper products and you sell them for more. Imagine if you actually made a quality product and sold it for a fair price. You're not going to get disgustingly wealthy, but you'll get rich enough.
I won't get my new yacht.
Right. You'll still get a house and nice cars and a beautiful, like, you can still have enough. And my mom was just talking about this book she was reading that was talking about when is enough enough. And there's something even more to it that he's hitting on. It's not just about is enough, but wanting to do something you want to do and not dividing your life up into my pleasure time, my playtime, and my home time. Like my playtime and my work time, and work time sucks. And the funny thing about the shoe manufacturer that I was just talking about, he worked literally until he died. Even when he didn't have a foot and he had had cancer, he was still being wheeled in a wheelchair into that office. And I'm betting you his partner, Mr. Wilborn, probably still goes in. And he's got to be like 85 by now. Why? Because their work is their play. because they didn't build a life that was all about awesomeness. Mr. Campbell, I met him. He had so much money. His son married a Victoria's Secret model, blah, blah, blah. And all that guy did when you talked to him was name drop. All he did was talk about this famous person and that person he saw. And I thought, why do you care? You have hundreds of millions of dollars. What does it matter who you spoke to last week that might be famous? But he was still hungry for that ego fix. He never got there. He never got to being happy and enjoying and saying, I've arrived. He always wanted more, which is part of what drove the business, but how sad for him, because he had so much. And really in the end, honestly, he was still alone. His last wife, he had a ranch in the Hamptons, and she would ride her horse there all the time. And I remember he went into surgery one time. She was like 20 or 30 years younger than him. And she didn't even show up. And I remember I said something to my operations director, who's probably the CEO now. And I remember he said to me, what do you mean? She's a really smart girl. That engagement ring she has alone is probably worth $250,000. He's like, she could go sell that. And I'm thinking, that makes her smart? A lot of the people who made a lot of money at that company were his friends. So when he had Thanksgiving, his employees were the ones that showed up. Do you know how depressing that is? Because they all had to kiss his ass. No one could be honest or real with Mr. Campbell, right? Because he was employing them. And by the way, they were making way too much money for their talent level and their skill set. And on some level, they knew that. So he didn't even really have real friends. And his kids were a mess. And he was good to me. He actually offered me my own sector of the business. And I turned it down because it would have really upset my sort of mentor and boss, who I kind of made look bad because I didn't agree with what was going on. And I felt really a lot of compassion for Bob Campbell, which is weird because he was supposed to be a tycoon who was super rich. There's a different way. I want to be the third option. Don't you?